Good afternoon. Welcome. I am looking through some paperwork. So I'm just waiting to see who's going to join me today for the Lunchtime Live. Looking through some papers. Different kind of reading today. I need to make an appointment. And before I can make the appointment, I need to figure out what the previous appointment was all about. So I'm looking through some paperwork. Let's see. And so far, I'm not seeing it. Okay. Hi, friend. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just waiting to see if some other friends are going to join us today. What is this? Looking for some paperwork. Looking to find some paperwork from an appointment and not really finding it. How are you guys doing? How are you doing today? I am in New York City today. It is 2:30, almost 2:30, 2:29 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're also still on daylight saving time. So we are on. Hi, Andre. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. We are on here. So I've spent some time filming some content. Spent some time filming content, and my light has been bothering my eyes. I think the LED light has kind of messed up my eye. So I'm just having to take a break from the ring light and so on. So I know it's a little darker in here. It's a little darker in here than it probably should be. But the light, I'm having a little bit of light sensitivity. So bear with me. Bear with me. I know the video quality is not everything that it could be, but we're going to try to power through. I am just on here looking for some papers. You know when you know that you have something and you're not sure where it is, but you know you have it. So I took some of the receipts and stuff and I stuck them in this box so that I could go through them. But I'm not finding what I'm looking for. Made a couple of other phone calls today trying to get the information another way, but haven't found it yet. Let me know how you guys are doing. If you've been here you can see me perfectly. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, you know, sometimes we think about things. Sometimes we worry about things and we allow things to be a deterrent when you could just do it anyway. So I haven't been reading much because there's a lot of other things going on. So if you've been here for a few of the lives, you may know that I told you my mom has been ill for a while. And so we are planning to go visit her. And I'm trying to make the arrangements to leave before the end of the week. So it means getting like a quick trip to Jamaica. Quick trip. And all the things that are involved with planning an overseas trip. And not just for myself, but for me and my daughter. So it's a lot of things just to kind of do and arrange and make sure that are done. And not much time to do them. So you're asking what I'm searching for. I'm looking for some paperwork. I'm looking for some paperwork from a doctor's visit a couple of years ago. And I'm not sure where it is. So sorry, there's a lot of noise. But I just said I would look for it while I am here. March. Because you get all of this. You get all of these papers, and sometimes we just put them down, save them as receipts. And every now and then you do want to come back and look at the receipts, but not always. Hi, my cozy little library. Good afternoon to you too. I'm just rummaging, looking for some paperwork. These receipts are really old. I'm looking for something from 2022. And I'm not finding it. So I will have to come back and do this later. But I did find a stack that may be helpful. So I'm just going to put it there and put it back. Good afternoon. How are you doing? Oh. So this is a little bit of a bookish space. And we usually chat books. I'm not going to be on here for too long, but I did want to just come on and say hi, see how you guys are doing, ask what you're reading. What's my favorite book? That's a great question. I don't just have one. Telling you about my favorite books give you a little clue into some of the things that I'm interested in. A lot of the books that I have read and loved are books that I do not physically own a copy of. Let me tell you some of my favorite books. This is one of my favorite books. The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honoré Fannin Jeffers. This was a huge read, a huge book, over 700 pages, I think. Yeah, close to 800 pages of family saga, seeing a family over several generations and seeing how things that people do affect the next generation, whether they intend to or not. A little bit of generational tendencies and how sometimes when we don't deal with things, they could, instead of you're just avoiding them, they become bigger issues. And that's something that I enjoy reading about in fiction, even though it's something that I need to work on in my personal life. So that's one of my favorite books that I own. Another one of my favorite books, here are two. Here are two of my favorite books. This one, A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, is one of my favorite books. This one is maybe a little different from what you might expect from me, but it is a Japanese author. Well, an author of Japanese background. I think she's Canadian, and it is about people reaching out across the distance and communication that bridges gaps in physical space and time. And so in this one, we're reading about a girl in Japan communicating with an older woman living in Canada. So right before the tsunami, this young girl writes something, and her message somehow gets to this woman who is living in a different time, possibly a different place for sure. But they have some shared history, because both the author, well, not just the author too, but both of these two characters are of similar background, but one maybe they're separated by time and possibly other things. And so one of the things that I really liked about this book was how the author expands on that scientific principle called the uncertainty principle, where you can only pin down one thing at a time. Like, you either know something's position, or you know its speed, or you know things about it, because life is dynamic. And I really like that. Then there's some religious philosophies that are explored in here that I really, really like as well. And so I've only read this. I really only read this once, but I remember loving it, and I've recommended it to a ton of people since then. So this is one of my favorite books. If you ask me, just like spur of the moment, a book that I really love, or you ask me without me getting a chance to think too much about it, what's your favorite book? I'll tell you, Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. It's one of my favorite books. Another favorite is this one, Cry the Beloved Country by Alan Paton. This one is set in South Africa, right after apartheid. Actually, no, it is during apartheid, and we're reading about the connection between people of different backgrounds, different socioeconomic background, different racial background, and also different experience background, and how, like, what it means for people to reach out across those divides and connect with others. What are some of the things that people have to give up in order to do that, but also what can be accomplished when you do that. And this also has some religious text, religious tones, not text, religious text. No, religious tones. I'm saying it again. This has some religious tones because one of the characters in here is a pastor. He's a minister, and it's exploring the meaning of religion in our lives, right? And I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, it also builds on some Bible stories. So like some of the characters in here have names that are similar to Bible characters, and it gives you a sense of expectation, like how much of what these characters' actions will mirror like what we expect from their biblical namesakes. And so yeah, really, really enjoyed this book as well. So if you're looking for book recommendations, here are 2 and 3. So what's so interesting is I talk a lot about Caribbean fiction, and none of those 3 books were by Caribbean authors. So another favorite book I would tell you is, I don't have a copy right here, right now. Another favorite book, no, I do. Another favorite book is this one, Augustown by Kai Miller. This is a Jamaican author. And Augustown is about a thing and a time and a place in Jamaica, but it also calls the reader to think about the history of Jamaica. And so in this one, we're reading about people from disenfranchised groups And specifically, we read about one group that is quite frequently misunderstood, and that's the Rastafarian community in Jamaica. And we read about a member of that community, how he is treated when he goes into the kind of mainstream community, and why his treatment is so, terrible, because it comes from someone who should be like him. And so we link that to other things that have happened, other historical events that have happened. And it's just exploring how we feel about ourselves, and how we choose to identify, how people choose to identify, and based on our own self-identity, how we behave to other people who may be like us but identify otherwise, or people who are different. And so, yeah, this is a Jamaican author. Kai Miller is from Jamaica. He lives in England, and he writes a lot of different genres. He writes fiction. I have a few of his novels. He also writes poetry. And he has a couple of essay collections where he talks about just, life and things that have affected his life, but the lives of other people. And so, yeah, this is another high recommendation, Augustine by Kai Miller. I could go on for days. Do you want more recommendations? Do I know a good European author? Okay, so none of the books that I have mentioned so far have been European authors. Okay, all right, I got you. All right, let me think of recommendation from here. Europe, you say? It's funny because a lot of the books that I talk about are by European authors, but let's see if we have any right here, right now. Right here, right now. It's kind of dark, as we mentioned. Can't see very well to tell you some of these titles. All right, give me a second. Give me a second. So,
pretty adorable.
Let's see some books that I've read this year, because I've read, I think, quite a few books, especially by British authors. So my first, I think. All right, let me open up the spreadsheet. So that's why you have to have the spreadsheet, because I could sort now by British authors. But you don't just want British authors, you want European authors. So the book that I was reading yesterday, it's not here, it's over there. I was reading Clear by Karis Davis, and I can't talk about that book yet because I'm judging it for the BookTube Prize. I'm reading it to rank it with other books for the BookTube Prize. But Karis Davis, her first novel, her debut novel was West, and it's a very strong book. Very short, atmospheric. Those are the words that I used to describe it yesterday. And Karis Davis she lived in New York for a while, but she is from the UK. I think, is she from Wales or Scotland? That's a novel that I read recently from a European author. Books that I have read this year. Claire Keegan. Love Claire Keegan. Read her book Small Things Like These last year, and highly recommend her. I read Foster this year by her, which was another novel about, another small novel. A lot of her books, I think, are short fiction, like novella length, but novel intensity. That's one of the things that I really like about her writing. So Small Things Like These explored, how, just like we were talking about earlier, how sometimes small things can become big things if we don't if we don't work on them, if we don't attend to them when they are small. And in her novel Small Things Like These, she explored how sometimes there's a tendency to discount things because they are small. So she looked at people who may be considered small in different ways. So like younger people, people who may not, or people who may be lower on the socioeconomic ladder than we would like, or where we are, how we tend to discount people who we consider less than ourselves. Um, yeah, lots of topics I think were covered in that book that I really enjoyed. But I did a series, well, not a series, I did a video earlier this year where I read books by Irish authors. So I read James Joyce, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. I read Foster by Claire Keegan, and I read Twist by Colin McCann. Colin McCann is another author, Irish author, that I really enjoy his work. But this year, a lot of my books have been American authors or people outside of Europe, and I think that's good. I'm getting a lot of diversity. Have you read The Husbands by Holly Gramazio? Is that your speed? As a British author, I wouldn't call that my favorite book. I wouldn't call that my favorite book at all. But Colm Toibin, I read a couple of books by Colm Toibin earlier this year, Brooklyn as well as Long Island. Um, mm, 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 mm. Yeah. Uh, Sophie Kinsella. Would I consider Sophie Kinsella a European author, or think about her genre fiction in terms of like books? Ooh, books by women authors. Sophie Kinsella is one of my favorites. She's going through some health challenges right now, and I didn't know until I finally picked up her book. Sophie Kinsella, when I think about her books, I think about like the Shopaholic series. They're light, they're fun, they're um, what I used to call the pink books, the lipstick books, where when you go into the library looking under women's fiction, you see all these books with pink spines. And I used to read a lot of those kinds of books from her. And then last year, I think it was, she wrote a very short book. Um, Last year, she published a very short book called What Does It Feel Like? Let me see if I have it right here. Yeah, if you're familiar with Sophie Kinsella from books like this, which is Christmas Shopaholic, her Shopaholic series, light and fun. But then last year she published this book called What Does It Feel Like, which is a novel, but it's based on her real life experience with what did she call it? She gets this diagnosis, and maybe I shouldn't tell you, but the character in this book gets a diagnosis of a tumor, and it starts affecting her life, and it's about how she deals with it, and how her life changes, what she does, and what her life becomes after this diagnosis. And it is a novel. Again, it's novella length, but a novel because of the intensity, because of what gets brought into the work. And reading it as fiction is one thing, but knowing that the author is going through something similar and has chosen to share her story with her readers through a novel, because that's how we know her, that's how we have come to love her. She wrote a novel about what she was going through, to share her story with her readers. And sometimes when novelists have things that they want to share, they write memoirs. and the memoirs may not reach the same community because people who read novels may only want to read the novels. But in this one, Sophie Kinsella gives the reader an opportunity to be exposed to what it is that she's really going through, but gives us a main character that we can fully center on and become invested in the main character's story in a fictional way, knowing that the author could let the story kind of end anyway because it's fiction. So I really enjoyed this one. Enjoy may not be the word that I want to use, but I thought this was a really powerful read because it is a difficult subject to talk about, but the author gives us an opportunity. She gives the reader still some opportunity to escape alongside this character, because while we know that it is based on a true diagnosis, we get fiction to enjoy in an escapist way. So I really like that. Terry Fino says, please try to review that next. Have I read the book called Gettysburg Smoothie by Ariel Cartwright? It's awesome. I have not read it, but thank you so much for putting it on my radar. So I'm going to just screenshot your comment. Hopefully I don't turn off my phone like I did yesterday. So I haven't read Gettysburg Smoothie. What is it about? Terry Fino also says I should boycott paper books, e-books only. What does that mean, boycott paper books? Are you suggesting that I should get rid of my paper books and then only buy e-copies? Because that's not happening. That's not going to happen. I do read some electronic books, but when I have ebooks, I don't have them to show you. So I have a library on the Kindle app on my phone. But how would I show that to you? I wouldn't be able to show you while I'm using my phone to do the live. So there's that too. I do read ebooks. I made a TikTok this morning for my TikTok. I made a TikTok today about audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks sometimes. They're not my preferred medium. I much prefer a physical book that I can carry with me and read when I need to read, when I have time to read. I much prefer having a physical book. And there are all these books that I own. And this, my dear friend, is only about a half of my collection. Only about half of my collection. I have books in lots of other places. So I already own the physical books. I do get a lot of books from my library, and it's also easier to check out books from my local library when they're in physical format. I am a member of a couple of library systems, and some library systems I will go to when I need e-copies, because it's easier for me to get e-copies from someplace that's like, I'm a member of the New York Public Library, and I don't have to travel to a physical New York Public Library branch in order to access their ebooks. So I'll read those, or if I want to download an audiobook as an accompaniment to a physical book that I'm reading. But print books are always my favorite. They're always my go-to, my preferred genre. But every now and then I read an ebook. I put that in there. Andre had asked earlier, how many books do I read? Sounds like I really love reading. Yeah, I do love reading. How many books do I read? So on average, I read about 100 books a year. It's a lot more than some people read, and it's also a lot less than some other people read. Like, I follow some people here on bookish platforms who read 300 plus books a year, read a book a day. That has never been me. I don't think that's necessarily me, because I like longer books that I wouldn't be able to finish in a day every day. So my average, I don't think will ever be that high. But I read I read on average about 100 books a year. Some years have been a little less, some years have been a little more, but that's my average because I do enjoy reading, but I do enjoy other things as well. Like today, I was thinking to sit down and read, but I went for a walk. I went for a couple of long walks yesterday and today. Um, just, that's another way that I deal with things that are stressful. Go on long walks. And so because I'm not consuming a lot of e-media, I'm not walking and reading a physical book, so that's time that I'm not reading. So yeah, I enjoy other things. I have a family that I spend time with, so I don't read all the time, but when I do get a chance to read, my preferred genre is a physical book and some of these. So on my shelves, some of these are books that I have read. A lot of them are books that I haven't yet read, like that shelf right there. That shelf right there. Most of those books, there may be 2 books up there that I have already read, but most of those are books that are on my TBR, because I haven't gotten to them yet. Some of them, like, I've started, read a few pages, but I haven't yet read them. Um, yeah. So that's what's going on. All right, I'm gonna have to go because I'm not feeling so great. My eyes are really bothering me. So thank you so much for joining today. I will try to keep you guys updated. Andre asked if I read old stuff. I do. I have a TBR of some older books that I want to read, and I intend to get to some of those sometime soon. So I'll keep you posted. When I come back on live, we'll continue this conversation. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified, so you'll know when I come on to chat, and you can ask me more questions about my reading. I enjoy talking about reading almost as much as I enjoy reading for myself. So I really enjoyed this. If you have recommendations, feel free to leave them here. Maybe I'll pick up Goth or Shill, so I could read it and we could talk about it before we come. I could read it before we come back so we could talk about it. Let me know if you've read it too. So thank you so much, and I'll chat with you later. Have a great afternoon and happy reading. Whatever it is that you pick up, whether it's a new book or an older book, physical book, ebook, audiobook, a recommendation, one of the books that I have talked about, something new that I haven't and you want to read, and let's chat about it next time, so you can give me a recommendation. Anything you read. Happy reading. Bye. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your company.